Morning, fellow Bodgers. This morning we're going to do our first virtual demonstration. And I guess I'm the demonstrator, so we're going to begin here in a second. I usually like to try something different every once in a while, and so this morning I'm going to try a winged bowl. I've never done one of these until recently, and so I gave it a shot and it came out pretty good. Well, first thing I had to do, I had to come up with a piece of wood. So being kind of cold outside, I decided the quickest and easiest way was to go out to the firewood pile and grab a stick and bring it in. And so that's what I did. And my firewood pile for here in the shop is pine. So I went out and grabbed a piece of pine, brought it in, and this is my first attempt at a winged bowl. Let me hold it over here so we can see a little bit better. Now, the proportion on this I didn't think was quite right. If you notice, it doesn't have much of a wing. So I thought, well, I'll try it again. So my second attempt has a little larger wing. Fly this over here, the white background. This one, the proportion is about 2 to 1. So the length of the piece that I used was about twice as long as it was in diameter. Now, if we're to begin, we take a log, a stick, a limb, whatever you want to call it, a blank, and we cut longitudinally through that blank until you have a piece that resembles this. And the amount that I removed was about 1/4 of the limb itself. This happens to be a piece of locust, and what I'm going to be turning today is going to be a piece of hickory. My son went out the other day and he cut a hickory down, so I grabbed a little branch, and it's still green, and so if you notice I have it in a bag. Didn't want it to dry out too much. So the first thing I'm going to do here in a few moments is we're going to go over to the bandsaw, and I'm going to make a couple cuts on the bandsaw, and I'll show you how I do that here in a few moments then. So here's the piece. It's about 4 inches, 4.5 maybe in diameter, and it's about 10 inches in length. So we're off to the bandsaw. Well, the first thing you have to determine is what's the best side of the log or the limb to work as the top. Well, you see that the back side of this one has some imperfections in it. Well, that's where the wing will be. So the wing's going to dip down in here, and there were a couple distress marks here and a little limb coming out on the side. So I'm going to rotate that over, and I'm going to call that the back. And if that's going to be the back, then what I'm going to do is to mount a board to the front of my piece. And when I do that, I'm going to be mounting it in such a way that when I put the screws in, they're going to be on the inside of the bowl portion of the bowl. So I'm just simply going to screw these screws in. All right, I think that's solid enough. And now that's going to serve a couple purposes. It's going to keep that log from rolling, and I'm going to set it over here and use it as a guide against my fence. And when I set this up, which you can't see from that angle, but I'm going to be cutting about 1/4 of this log away. Now you're going to hear some really weird sounds from a bandsaw. I've got a bad blade. Now, if you noticed, I waited until the saw completely stopped before I went to remove the blank. And you should always set up a system in such a way that that log can't roll on you. So that's what I've done here. And I'm going to take it out. I unscrewed the screws. Now, why did we do this? Why did we cut the 1/4 of the blank away? Well, a couple reasons. One thing, it is a little bit faster than turning. The second thing is we're going to set it flat on the table like that and trim both ends off until they're square. And we can do that by hand. You could put a miter gauge in here. I could have trimmed these a lot deeper if I'd have needed to. One of the things that usually occurs is after you cut the limb, you're going to get some checking in the end. And this allows you to remove that checking, but it also squares up the end for you. Okay, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to locate the center. And once we locate the center, then we're going to go ahead and take it, and this is the way I do it anyway. I take it to the drill press. And on the drill press, I drill a hole that is equal to one of the smallest diameters that I can chuck. And I'm going to cut an internal tenon. So that'll be next. While I was at the bandsaw, I did find the center of the piece by running diagonals. And now I'm going to go ahead and drill it. Now on this particular piece, I did just check the diagonals and it's slightly over 10 inches. Therefore you couldn't do this on a mini lathe. I'm doing this on a 22-inch lathe. It's a Grizzly and it works real well. I like this one of all the lathes that I have because this is my only variable speed. And with the variable speed I can control my speed, of course, but without having to change the belts. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pull the tailstock up and put a little pressure on this to hold it right in the center when I tighten it down good. Put just a little bit of pressure on it. And I'm going to loosen this back up just a bit. And we'll see how she looks here. I think it's going to be pretty good. You know, the advantage of doing this virtually is that you can't see any of the mess ups that I make, and we're also able to see steps that we could tell you about, but we really wouldn't be able to show you if we were doing this live in the shop. Okay, I think we're ready to do a little turning here. I'm going to leave the tailstock inserted in this back side. Let's put a rest in here. And I don't think I need that large one at the moment. I'll go with one a little bit shorter. line everything up. Always rotate by hand first. Everything seems to clear. I'm going to double check it, and I think we're in business. A little more pressure on the tailstock, and I think we're good to go. Always wear safety protection, including a dust mask and a face shield. I prefer this face shield that has the lens in the center and the screen on the top and the bottom. And by doing that, I can breathe a lot better. All right, I'm going to start cranking it up. I'm about 440, 500. Just now at 600, getting just a slight vibration. So I'm going to leave it right there. Eventually, once I remove this part that's going to be out of balance, then we'll be in better shape and I can run at a lot faster speed. Just using a gouge, half-inch gouge. Screwing it to begin with. Now, you know, once you go from here, you can see this is an interrupted cut. Okay, I've taken a good bit of material off of the outside or the wings. I'm going to increase my speed a little more. I had a little vibration around 700. It balances out a little better. Running 900, 1,000. And now I can get in here and I can clean up this inside area. This will be the bottom of the bowl here. Okay, I'm going to adjust my tool rest because with these wings now thinner and at an angle, the distance between my rest and the work is too great out here on the end. So I'm going to swing it around a little bit. And I can work on the wings a little more. Still need to take a little more off to flatten that bottom. All right, let's see if we can't get this little shape here. As I'm making my arc inside here, which you can't see, let me turn that off for a second and show you a little bit better. As I'm making this arc in here, what I'm doing, I'm keeping my feet planted and I'm going to pivot my body. I'm going to, as I hold the tool, I'm going to turn my body around to get a nice true arc. It's just about sharp on that end, and it is sharp on this end, so my center was off just a smidgen. Let me see if I can't clean up the bottom. Then we'll go back, finish up the wing, and we'll be in business. Always remember, too, that you never want to let your hands go beyond the edge of the tool rest itself. Keep your hands to the right side of the tool rest. If they come out here, it'll bite you every time. trying to do a little checking here, see how much more I have to go in to make this work. I want to leave a little bit of a foot on the very bottom, which I think I can do there. All right. So let's back that tailstock up a minute so I can see exactly what I'm working on. Get my drill, the same one I used on the top. I'm going to put it in a Jacobs chuck, mount it in the tailstock, and I'm going to make an internal tenon. Now, you can go either way. You can make an external tenon, and as you finish up, you'll have to put it in a vacuum chuck in order to turn that tenon off. So what I like to do, to save a step, if I use the right chuck key, it works better too. I put an internal tenon in. Lock the tailstock, crank it up. Working with a large Forstner bit like this, we want to maintain probably no more than 450, 500 RPM. I will have to clean this bit out. This wood is extremely green, extremely wet. I feel safer if I have plenty of room for those jaws on that chuck to grab. Yeah, I think we're good. Now, because we're not completely finished on the outside, I'm going to put that center back in. For safety purposes. Exactly what shape you want this wing? Entirely to you. We'll do this on all the different videos, I hope. I've moved over here just a little bit where I can look down on the top edge of that wing to get a better feel for it. And I got a good feel for it there, knock the corner off. See how bad it's damaged. Well, I don't think that's going to hurt anything. All right. Clean up just one real fine pass across it. And I think we'll be in business. Could go in here just a little more. If you notice right here, I have a little bark. None on the other side, so maybe I'll go just a little more so that my foot is completely bark free. I'm going to finish that here. See if it's finished on out on the other side of the picture. And you can't tell where I'm standing over here on the reverse side. If I look there, I can get a feel for what's left and out. Looking down on this side, I can't do that. shape-wise, not too bad, not too bad. Okay. Next thing, if I were a great turner, which I'm not, I wouldn't have to use any sandpaper. But I am going to have to use a little sandpaper on this to clean it up. And that'll, I think, take care of that little spot right there too. So I'll clean it up with some sandpaper and we'll see what it looks like. Now what I like to do with the piece is before I turn it around, I like to put a little bit of finish on it. And I don't know whether it really does or not, but I think that it helps it from drying out too fast. So I have some salad bowl finish here. I'm just going to lather it up real good. Then we'll give it a moment or two to soak in. And I hope this helps control the checking. Okay, it's set now for a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the chuck. I put the tailstock back in for just a few moments here, just enough to hold it while I loosen the chuck. Now I can back the tailstock out and pull the piece off, flip it around, and run the tailstock back in. Because I had already pre-drilled this hole, I had it mounted in the chuck. Put a little pressure on it. Tighten my jaws back up. And now we can work on the inside. I have to give myself just a little bit more room. Again, always rotate by hand first. Make sure you're clear. Okay. Let's go back at it. Now, that sharp edge of that wing is very close to the tool rest, so you have to make sure that you don't get your hands on the other side. Now, as you're making this cut, what I do is that I turn the machine off frequently to check the distance to make sure that I'm getting it pretty consistent. In this case, I see this distance here is wider, the bark is, than what it is down here. So what that tells me is I need to come out here further and then go in. So that's what I'm going to do next. Try to get that consistent. I'll probably get it down to about 3/8 of an inch. The other thing that I do, it's a problem when you're working in green wood, that you have to constantly tighten your chuck up. Getting a little better here. This distance still is too great for this distance here. So I want to try to even that up. Now what I started to say was what I do with my cut. Let's see if I can get this up here. I go in at an angle like this, and as I get closer to the center, I rotate the skew around. Check my distance. All right, I'm a lot closer. I think I'll probably work the center out now and then come back and finish up that tip on the outside. Let's see what we have here. Okay, real sharp change right here, so we need to clean that up a little more. And I can go just a little deeper, but not very much. Smooth cut from here down through. That'll be a fun cut. I think I'm just. No wide. I'm going to leave this fairly thick in the bottom. I'll take my center out now. Okay, in pretty good shape. Just a little sanding, and I think we'll be home free. Again, watch your fingers. Here's something else. I don't know whether you can see on the video or not. The way I'm holding the paper, I'm making sure that this top edge of the paper is more toward the center of the bowl. So I'm actually doing the sanding down on the bottom edge down here. And the reason for that is this wing comes around here. I don't want it to catch the paper. All right, that's not too bad. Quick coat of finish. Seal up the bark real good too. a really neat little bowl that could be used for coins, keys, a little bit of candy. And there we have it. Our winged bowl.